Hello, everybody. This is Jared, the non-alcoholic aficionado, and I'm here today with Ian Blessing from All the Bitter. We are going to be testing out some of their award-winning bitters that are not alcoholic. And I was suggested to try something different, and I thought, what could I do that might incorporate some orange bitter? I was told to do 5 dashes. We got 5 dashes in
That looks
there.
great.
I thought, why don't we mix it with a Sunbeam Pills from Go Brewing? Got the hat on, I might as well try it. So this is gonna be I'm kind of taking the riff on almost like a blue moon, so to speak, with that orange flavor. We'll see what this is all about. And while I'm pouring this, Ian, do you want to maybe tell us about the milestone you guys reached today?
Yeah, I still can't really believe it myself, but today All the Bitter hit 100,000 bottles sold
Wow,
in a little bit less than 3 years. So
it's
3 years
unbelievable.
ago, we were still in our home kitchen where I am sitting right now, developing recipes, which took us about a year, and then
Yeah.
we launched in January of 2022, so a little less than 3 years ago. And in the first year, it was just myself and my wife and partner Carly, and we made 30,000 bottles, just the two of us. And that's from extracting raw botanicals in a process that takes 2 months
Wow.
to pressing, filtering, bottling, labeling, and shipping all in house. And again, that first year was literally in house.
In your house?
We made it. Yeah, we took it from our home kitchen to a commercial kitchen. We weren't making it at home.
Yeah.
We took it to a commercial kitchen where we rented 150 square feet of space in a little corner and would go, a couple times a week. Kept overhead really low to get
Yeah.
started, and we didn't have any employees, so we weren't really spending a lot of money, which was great. Um, and would make it there and then drive it home and store it in our office at home,
Yep.
and did all the shipping out of our house. In the next year, we moved into a slightly larger space in that same shared commissary kitchen, which allowed us to bring everything into the same space. So we were able to keep shipping there. We were able to buy larger tanks, proper equipment, and then at the beginning of this year, moved into a 2,500 square foot space that's all our own, is not shared with anybody, and have outgrown that again, and we'll be
Wow.
moving again in January. So every the irony of dry January being the busiest month of year for non-alc brands is that we got started in January and for some reason have scaled up every single January.
That's
Have had to physically move into a new space in the busiest month of the year. Um, and this time we're actually fully building out a new facility. So the place we moved into this time was already set. It used to be a kombucha production facility.
oh, cool.
So we were ready to go, but we found a really amazing space. It's not set yet, not knock on wood, but we found a really amazing space that seems like it's going to work out. That's 6,500 square feet, so it's
Wow.
enough room for us to grow. Over the next 10 years. I'm hoping we won't need to move again after this, but it also includes a retail space up front
Oh,
where we will
wow.
be able to open a non-alcoholic bottle shop. So not just sell our bitters, but also sell Go Brewing and the
Nice.
spirits and canned cocktails and wines and everything that we love that goes with our cocktail bitters. So again, nothing is finalized. Hopefully, I'm not speaking out of turn, but we're really excited.
Great. Well, I'm trying this orange bitters with the Sunbeam pills, and it's almost like a lighter blue moon. Like it's got the air or the aroma from the orange. It's got the clean bite from the Pilsner, and it's just it rounds it out nicely. It's a good combination. I'm
Yeah,
happy.
yeah.
What
Beer and
have you?
bitters. Hmm?
I was gonna ask, have you done many like beer cocktails with it?
I mean, I make plenty of beer cocktails at home, but adding just bitters to beer and nothing else is something that we've been doing since before we started. It was actually the recommendation of Sam Reinhart, who's one of the regulars in the non-alc spirit groups on Facebook and the non-alc beer groups.
Sure.
And he suggested adding bitters to beer, and I thought, wow, that's a novel idea. It turns out there's actually some historical precedent for it. There's a very classic drink in France um, where you mix an aperitif called a mer picon, which is an orange bittersweet aperitif with beer.
Yep.
That's more, like you're adding probably an ounce and a half to 2 ounces. It's more like Campari or Aperol, which again there's a lot of precedent for. There's a drink in the States called a spaghetti, which is where you mix Aperol with a Miller High Life in the bottle. Um, Bitter aperitifs and beer work really well together. It's
Yeah.
honestly one of my favorite go-to easy cocktails. Like I don't make a lot of cocktails at home, to be honest.
Yeah.
We have a full bar, and I have spent enough time developing cocktail recipes that I don't make myself a lot of cocktails anymore. I drink a lot of canned cocktails. I've got a
Oh,
Liar's,
there you go.
canned margarita here.
Nice.
I drink a lot of canned cocktails and beer and wine, um, and make a lot of bitters and soda because that's easy. That's a really nice, kind of refreshing, gut-friendly alternative to seltzer, yeah, to Lacroix or something like that. But beer works really, really well as a mixer.
Yeah.
I would love to see people use it more as the base for non-alcoholic drinks. And you
Yeah.
really don't have to, there's plenty of cocktails you can make, right? Michelada, um, shandies. There's plenty of drinks that you can make, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Really,
Yeah.
any bittersweet aperitif, any Campari, Aperol, Amaro alternatives like Pathfinder will work really well. Um, anything that's got a little bit of that bittersweet bite complements the
Yep.
hops in beer really nicely. And then beer adds its own. You typically want to use something that's a little lighter. A Pilsner is a great example. Something like Stella works really well. The macro brews, honestly, things like Bud Zero and Bush, actually, PBR, any of the large breweries, their beers work really well because they're kind of neutral in flavor.
Sure.
And the same is true with our bitters. It's going to be more subtle, adding a couple dashes of bitters because you're adding a couple of milliliters to a drink.
Yep.
It's not going to impact it the same way as if you were to add 2 ounces of Aperol to a drink. But it's a really nice way to kind of season your drinks in the same way that you can use it again to add to flavor to club soda. People use our bitters to add flavor to red wine, sparkling wine. You can add them to coffee, tea, tonic, ginger ale.
Yeah.
Really any liquid to serve the same effect as using salt and pepper in food. It's a way to enhance, highlight, bring out certain flavors, and add just a little bit of spice and a little bit of nuance and complexity. And it works really nicely in beer. And I think orange in a light beer is a great example.
Yeah. I just tried something else as a little experimentation as we go. I did the lavender in some club soda, sparkling water, and it really jazzes it up nicely. I mean, going from, no flavor to having that nuance, get the aroma and the element of lavender that's, not overwhelming, but still got good flavor. It's really good.
Yeah, thank you. The idea behind the lavender bitters was to have that floral lavender flavor, but to not
Yeah.
be overwhelming.
Yep.
And
And there's
so
a
our lavender bitters are, I think, quite a bit more complex, I would say, than other lavender bitters on the market, which are more straightforward, kind of in your face lavender
floral.
flavor. We've done a lot of, we added a good amount of chamomile to it, which rounds it out, gives it kind of a softer flavor profile, and then added a ton of functional ingredients
I saw
that
that
for,
ashwagandha.
yeah, for two reasons. To add that functional benefit to it, we figured lavender bitters, like, lavender is calming anyway, chamomile is calming, so why not continue down that path? And so we added ashwagandha and skullcap and passion flower and lemon balm and a bitter herb called blue vervain, which is also a nervine that's helpful for relaxation. So all of those ingredients combined add a calming effect and help with anxiety and stress, but they
Yeah.
also serve the purpose of adding kind of a grassy flavor to it. So it's not just floral lavender, it's lavender, but it's also soft chamomile. There's a little bit of lemon peel in there. There's some rose petals, but then there's these really grassy bitter herbs as well, and ashwagandha, which is a little bit funky, which adds some really interesting nuance to it. And again, to go back to beer, the lavender bitters in Stella is one of my absolute favorite things. The non-alc Stella. If you have you tried the non-alc Stella yet?
I haven't had that one. No, surprisingly.
It's fantastic. I think like a lot of the larger breweries, they have the money and the team to really get it done right, and their beers tend to be really consistent. And for the most part, we drink Go Brewing and Athletic and all of the other small non-alc producers. But I love how wide the larger players have made it. Heineken is the obvious example. You can find Heineken has effectively replaced O'Doul's in restaurants across the country, which is great. Along with Athletic, which is pretty wild. You'll find one of those on most menus in the country now. Sure. And I'm excited to see Go, take that same direction. But Stella I was never a Stella drinker. And it's funny, I think once you start to eliminate things from your diet, whether it's drinking or eating, you find that you might be more open to certain flavors that you didn't really enjoy before. I was never a macro brew drinker. I was 100% sours and IPAs, literally all I drank. I could not stand anything darker, anything super malty, anything light. Couldn't stand it. Sours and IPAs, that was it. Get everything else out of my face. But now I really appreciate everything. And I think part of it is because I can drink it, because it's an option to me. So I really enjoy, I enjoy light beers now. I enjoy, stouts and porters. But I was never a Stella drinker, but the non-alc Stella is killer. And the lavender bitters go really, really nicely in it. And then again, you're combining the effects of ashwagandha, skullcap, passion flower, and hops, which are themselves unnerving, which is relaxing. So people say, and I have a couple beers and I feel kind of sleepy, is that placebo effect? It's like, yeah, I mean, placebo's part of it, but it's because it's hops, and hops are relaxing on their own. Non-alc beer itself is a functional beverage because hops are functional.
Never thought of that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
What should I try next? I've got orange. I've got lavender down the hatch. I've got the aromatic or the oak aged New Orleans bitters. Which one should I try?
I would go with aromatic first. Aromatic is our take on a classic cocktail bitter. So if a recipe calls for bitters without any modifier, it's not asking for orange bitters or any other flavor. This is what they're referencing. Angostura is the classic comparison. Super warm, rich, very heavily spiced. Ours contains cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, ginger, allspice, basically all of the warm spices. It's a little bit Christmassy, with a pretty strong, bitter and earthy backbone to it.
Is that clove or just is there clove and cinnamon?
Yep, clove, cinnamon, every spice: clove, cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, black pepper, allspice. We threw everything in there. We were not non-discriminatory with our
cinchona bark. You didn't
cinchona bark. Yes,
cinchona bark.
I've
never heard of that before.
Cinchona bark. It's a tree bark. It's a bitter bark. That is very commonly used in cocktail bitters, in bitter aperitifs, in tonic. It's a very common bitter flavor, and just adds to the complexity of that bitter profile. So we use a handful of different bitter ingredients in all of our range. The aromatic includes gentian root, dandelion root, burdock, cinchona bark. All of those add a slightly different bitter flavor. Gentian, for instance, is a very clean bitter flavor. It doesn't really taste like anything except for bitter, and it really makes up the backbone of all of our flavors. Dandelion is a little bit sharp and has a bit of an interesting earthy flavor to it. Burdock is less bitter, more earthy, but still falls in that same kind of category. And both of them are super, super good for gut health.
Cool.
So like all of our flavors, and I mentioned our lavender bitters kind of focus on stress and anxiety. All of our flavors are formulated really a lot like digestive bitters, but are flavored like cocktail bitters. So you're going to find a pretty wide range of functional ingredients in them, including milk thistle seed, which is great for your liver,
Oh,
and
cool.
something that you're not going to find in traditional cocktail bitters, but you are likely to find, again, in a digestive bitter blend or an herbal tonic that's meant to, affect your entire digestive system.
I really like that aromatic one. It reminds me of kind of like a typical, just off the shelf bitters might have from
Yeah,
a regular cocktail. But
there
um,
there's a
I love
unique
how
ingredient. Sorry,
you're good. Go ahead.
I was going to say there's a unique ingredient in there, not unique, but something that I've never seen before in cocktail bitters, called holy basil or tulsi, is
Okay.
the other word for it, and it's another adaptogen that it covers a lot of bases, but it's good for gut health, cognitive function. It's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. Um, it covers it deals with stress and anxiety. It covers a number of kind of functional benefits, but
Yeah.
has a really interesting flavor on its own. And again, like almost all of our ingredients are there. That nice color. Almost all of our ingredients are there for both flavor and functional benefit.
Yeah.
One of the varieties of holy basil that we use has kind of a citrusy and peppery and clovey flavor. So it
Yeah.
works really well with those spices. The other variety of holy basil that we use tastes like mint chocolate,
Wow.
which adds a richness to it. So when I smell those, I smell chocolate in our aromatic bitters, but there's no cocoa nibs, there's no chocolate in it. That all comes from holy basil. Um, Offering a really wonderful, functional benefit, but also a flavor that
Yeah.
sets those apart significantly from other aromatic bitters that you're going to find, whether alcoholic or non-alcoholic.
Yeah. I just poured the New Orleans oak age bitters, and is there a touch of vanilla?
There
Or am
is,
I
yeah.
wrong?
So
I can taste that.
the
It's really good.
the oak age New Orleans, we take our regular New Orleans bitter, which is there's 15, 20 ingredients, but the primary flavors are hibiscus, anise, rose hips, and
Yeah.
cherry, tart cherry.
Yeah.
So very, very bright, very aromatic, very fruity, but dry. It's very
Yeah.
tart fruit. Hibiscus and tart cherry are both obviously very tart. Um, and is really a wonderful flavor that works well in non-alcoholic red wine, and is great just mixed with soda water or even just regular water. But then
Yeah.
our oak aged version, we add oak chips and vanilla beans to it. Um,
Yeah. It's really good.
Really specifically to go with non-alcoholic red wine, which was
Okay.
one of those uses that we didn't really plan on, but the community kind of stumbled on this hack, to add our aromatic bitters and our New Orleans bitters to non-alc red wine, to add flavor,
Yeah.
to add body, to add spice, to cut the level of sweetness that you find in some NA red wines. And then the oak aged version was really a response to people using that in wine. We thought this flavor already works really well. It has a lot of, kind of red wine flavors, a lot of Pinot flavors in it,
Yeah.
inherently. And we thought if we can add some more oak to that and some vanilla and some other, kind of classic red wine flavors, then why not?
I
And I
think,
think it's great in cocktails too. And honestly, I think it's surprisingly delicious in sparkling water.
yeah, it is
Um,
really good.
it's kind of a grown up kind of cocktail flavored seltzer,
It
is how
almost
it ends up.
tastes like root beer to me. It's kind of
Yeah,
almost like
very
root
much. Yep.
beer. I have one left. I don't know how chocolate mole bitters. Is that gonna go well in water? I've had it
It's
with coffee.
not good in water. No.
I had it in coffee. Coffee was pretty good, but I was like hesitant to bring
Coffee.
it to
Yeah.
my desk. I was like, I don't know if that's good in water. So I'm
I mean,
glad
you're
you
you're welcome to you're welcome to
said
try it, but I think it's our only bitter that doesn't go well in water. I don't recommend it. It's great in coffee. It adds a really fantastic flavor to coffee. And again, like all of our bitters, it works in coffee to add some nuance and some flavor without being overpowering. So it's
Yeah.
not like I'm not going to add syrup to my. I don't need flavored coffee. I like my coffee, pretty much straight up. I might have a little bit of oat milk in it or something.
Yeah.
But adding bitters to coffee is a really nice way to add just kind of a subtle nuance of flavor that you can taste, but it's not overpowering, and you're not adding a bunch of sugar and calories and artificial flavor to your drink. And you're again adding those gut health benefits. So a really nice way to start your day. Those chocolate mole bitters again have dandelion, burdock, gentian, milk thistle seed, ginger. It's got all those ingredients that are great
It's
for your gut.
got guajillo pepper as well, and pasilla pepper and ancho pepper. So all kinds of peppers.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do
We
you
used
take like dried peppers and like dice or like put them
yeah,
through like a food processing machine and then sift them out or something?
yep.
Wow. That's
Yeah, we sometimes use a Roboku, which is a little food processor.
yeah.
Sometimes we just dice it up with a knife and a cutting board. But yeah, the idea behind this was to really, take traditional chocolate mole, the sauce, and turn it
Yeah.
into cocktail format. It's not quite as savory as chocolate mole sauce would be. We're not
Sure.
using garlic or anything like that. But it's all the rest of those flavors. So we use kind of
Yeah.
the three. There's all different kinds of peppers you can use, but the three really traditional peppers are ancho, pasilla, and guajillo. So we used all three of those peppers, plus a number of the ingredients that you would find in chocolate mole. There's cinnamon and clove in there. We used smoked black peppercorn to give it a little smoky note. There's black cardamom in there, again, to give it an earthiness and a smokiness. What else? A handful of other things, but it ends up being really rich, chocolatey,
Yeah.
smoky, a little bit sweet, heavily spiced, and also just a touch spicy from the peppers.
Yeah.
Not spicy enough, they're not spicy bitters. It's more of a hint of heat. Those also work really well in non-alc red wine because they're adding that rich chocolatey flavor. They're adding some smoke. And that little bit of heat actually works well in non-alc red wines because it adds a little bit of bite and a little bit of kind of tickle at the back of your throat, which
Yep.
is one of the things that the NA red wines are really all entirely missing is anything to slow you down.
Yep.
You can even the wines that are that have a great flavor and aren't sweet and have some complexity to them. There's still really nothing to slow you down on drinking them.
Yep.
So the chocolate mole bitters work really nicely there.
So how did this happen? Did you just like wake up one day and you're like, I don't drink anymore and I want something more unique with my cocktails. Let's make a bitter.
Yeah, kind of. My wife and I met at the French Laundry working as
Oh,
sommeliers.
cool.
So our background is in wine and spirits and
Yeah.
hospitality and food. And along with that, our lives revolved entirely around drinking and eating and drinking too
Yeah.
much. And so we had kids and quit drinking about 5 years ago. Got really into non-alc alternatives just as consumers, as people
Yep.
who don't drink anymore but still want a sophisticated adult beverage. Found beer first. Athletic was our first, kind of entry into the market, and went down the rabbit hole pretty quickly. As soon as we realized that this was an option, that we could still enjoy the same flavor and ritual and experience, but without the alcohol, we were
Yeah.
pretty bought in right away. Um,
Yeah. I did the same
start,
thing last year.
yeah, it was wild, and not only to have the experience of these
Yeah.
drinks, but then to find community online,
Yeah.
to find Facebook groups and Instagram accounts, and to find people all over the country who were um, not necessarily sober. Lots of people who just don't drink or are drinking less, but also lots of people that are sober and we're celebrating milestones and asking questions and looking for support and help, and to be able to kind of flip the traditional recovery model on its head and say,
Yeah.
instead of talking about not drinking, we're going to talk about drinking. It's not for everybody. If the idea, if you're listening and you've just quit drinking, and the idea of something that tastes like beer but isn't alcoholic, if that idea is triggering to you, then don't do it.
Yep,
I
exactly.
certainly don't want anybody to try these things that is going to then go out and switch to a 6 pack or 12 pack of regular beer. But that wasn't the case for us, and it's not the case for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so you've got, at this point, the non-alc spirit group on Facebook has 35,000 people in it.
Wow.
And it's an incredible place to share what you're drinking, ask questions, celebrate, people's milestones, celebrate recovery without recovery being the focus.
Yep.
So you're not really bogged down by the stories of, my rock bottom or your rock bottom or whatever else. It's just like, hey, here's a great drink that I enjoyed. I suggest you go try it. And that was a really nice way for us to kind of find community and
Yep.
stay connected and to be able to share our experience and knowledge in the beverage world with people who were looking for great drinks,
Yep.
and to be able to help people drink less and still enjoy their lives. And so really that's where it came from. We started to build a bar at home of non-alc spirits and realized that there were hundreds of spirits on the market, but very, very few. At the time, there was only one that I was aware of, uh, alcohol-free cocktail bitters.
Yeah.
And we knew that we wanted to get into the space somehow. We were so enthralled by the non-alc market that we wanted to do something, and there was clearly a lack of bitters, and this was something that we could do from our home kitchen.
Yeah,
Making
for sure.
bitters honestly is not it's not rocket science. If you Google how to make bitters, that's basically what I did, and then figured out how to do it differently without alcohol.
Yep.
There's obviously some steps in the process that are a little bit different. There's some modifications that had to be made along the way, but it's not complicated. It doesn't require any dealcoholization equipment.
Yep.
It doesn't require pot stills. It was something that we could do at home in mason jars, and we did. We
Yep.
had developed hundreds of test recipes over the course of a year in our home kitchen, and eventually scaled
Wow.
up into the commissary kitchen that we were talking about earlier. And honestly, we're completely blown away by the response and by how necessary this was in the market, and
Yep.
how much people were missing it. And the fact that two people who know nothing about starting a business, nothing about sales outside of a restaurant,
Yeah.
have zero marketing experience, were able to start a packaged food brand from our home kitchen, and to grow it to 500 stores in the US and 10 countries, and just past 100,000 bottles handmade and shipped from our facility, is pretty wild.
So is there going to be some level of automation with the new space when it comes into play, or you can still just larger batches?
Not really. Yeah. Funny enough, we've looked at ways to do things differently over the course of the last couple of years.
Yeah.
We've explored things that we could do to make it faster. We've looked at ways to hopefully make it better. We're very happy with what our product is, and it's won 30 awards, and people seem to love it. But we're constantly thinking of how we can improve and make it better. And we've gone down a couple different avenues, and it's never worked out. We've landed on this fact that making it the way that we've made it from day one, in a slow 2-month process, is the best way to make it.
Yeah.
So, is it tedious? Does it scare? We don't have any investors, but we've obviously talked to a handful of people over the last couple of years. And
Yeah.
that's the one thing that seems to trip people up when I tell them that it takes 2 months to make. Um, People have a hard time wrapping their head around that. But I don't know. The fact is that bitters they come in a small bottle, so I can get 2,500 bottles out of a single 500-liter tank, which isn't very big.
Yeah.
We've got 12 tanks. I can make 25,000 bottles of bitters, in a batch in a 2-month period.
Wow.
Uh, so it's working the way that we're doing it. If anything, the only automation I think that we would ever add down the line would be an automated bottling line, because that's what will really trip us up, is
Yep.
that it takes 2 months to make, but then it takes another 2 months to fully bottle a batch.
Oh
So
wow.
it all sits in a sealed drum, until we get to bottling it, and it takes a while to put it bottled. We have a very small manual bottling line, but it still requires putting the cap on. It's not going from point A to point B on a conveyor belt. It still takes 2 to 3 people to run it.
Sure.
And then we're labeling it and stickering it and shrink banding it all by hand. So if anything, that's where automation will come in once we grow. But for now, we're good doing it the way that we do it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Ian, I'm glad I was able to try all these with your guidance, minus the chocolate mole, but I will have that in some coffee very
Try it in
soon.
coffee. Yeah,
I might go get a decaf espresso right now from my apartment lobby. I think I'm going to, just so I could try all five in the same afternoon.
there you
I
go.
don't know if I'm making things up, but I feel calmer. Have I, was that the ashwagandha I had?
It's probably
Was it
both.
the, was it the
It's a
fact that
little
I
of both.
had like 15 drops of bitters in 25 minutes, maybe?
Yes, yeah. You went pretty heavy on the bitters, so that's part of it. Um, but honestly, like any, it's the beer. It's hops in beer.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and honestly, like any non-alc drink, really, there's going to be a placebo effect.
True.
So
Yeah.
I've sat and done, non-alc wine tastings where I've had 5, 6, 7 wines, and after the course of an hour, stood up and was like, I feel buzzed. I
Yeah.
wasn't, obviously,
Yeah.
uh, and drove home perfectly fine and breathalyzed myself, and it's like, 0.0. Um, I've done this test. I think Rob from Generation NA was the one to really get it going, but he chugged 6 NA beers and then blew into a breathalyzer, and it showed 0.0. Um, so it's the placebos involved, hops, and then obviously the functional ingredients that are in there as well
Yep.
are all combining to make you feel
Something.
good. Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you joining, Ian. Thanks everybody for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. More content coming out on a regular basis, and check out all the bitter on your local bottle shop. You got it on Amazon, right?
Yeah, we're on Amazon now. Almost any non-alc bottle shop, I think just about everybody carries us.
Yep.
NA bottle shops, Total Wine, we're in 100 Total Wine stores now.
Cool.
It's kind of sporadic around the country, so you've got to check to make sure it's at that store.
Yep.
But if you are looking to pick up a gift for Christmas or the holidays, Hanukkah, if you're looking for a gift for you or somebody else, if there is a Total Wine store near you that does carry it, that's a great place to pick it up.
Cool.
And something that we're trying to support, as we just got into 100 stores and are hoping to have it do well, so we get picked up in the rest of the other 150 stores.
Great. Well, thanks, Ian. We'll talk soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Good talking to you.